Hi, my name's Andrew. In this video today I wanted to talk about foods again and bipolar. I was reading an interesting research paper that was done. It was over 12 years and 1,100 participants. The study was on looking at the complexities of bipolar and trying to determine what the real root cause was, and it was found that there's many causes, not just one. It really varies by the individual, really, what the determining factor is that's driving it, I suppose. And the one thing they said was interesting about the genetics was that they couldn't find a gene responsible, even though it seems to run in families at times. They couldn't find a gene itself. They said, even like they can say with breast cancer as an example, they said if it exists, they said they should have been able to find it, and they can't. So there are many factors to it, and I believe that too. That's why I often say it's a holistic approach. You need to look at everything. So in terms of the food, at least, I thought, I'm just got the list here. What they found was people with bipolar disorder had much higher levels of saturated fats in their diet. Now, they're not really a good thing anyway in anyone's diet, really. Fats, obviously, different sort of fats in our diet, yes. So the sort of things that we have, like all dairy, pretty much almost all dairy, is high in saturated fats. Cakes and deep fried things and pastries and a lot of other meats, particularly deli meats, they're very high, like salamis and chorizos and sausages, all that sort of processed stuff. Anyway, it's good to have a look for yourself at all the different saturated fats. So to really try and get them out of your diet altogether if you can. I know that's a hard one because a lot of people eat both meat and dairy. But look, if you're serious about wanting to get better, I would seriously at least consider that. Think, well, maybe I'll look at reducing and potentially even removing these things from my diet for a period of time, even a couple of weeks, just to see what happens. And obviously doing other things too. You need to sort of balance it out, other areas of your life, but diet is a big one. So that's interesting in itself. I know these things aren't good, just from my own research, but I found it interesting that they found that predominantly with people with bipolar as well. So what else were they saying? They're just looking here. They found high levels of saturated fats in people with bipolar diet, and the research also found association between levels of certain fat molecules in the blood of patients and their mood or level of symptoms. Now that's interesting too, because not only, let's say you completely eliminate the saturated fats from your diet, that may not be enough. You may actually then need to go through a process of cleansing out the body. And the reason being, this is not different to a lot of problems, particularly things like diabetes, that I'll give an example of diabetes in this regard, that it's often, people again, they're looking at, because they're told by the doctors, it's all the problems with, your blood sugar and all this sort of stuff. But that's a symptom, that's not the problem, that's not the cause. Okay, and we talk about insulin resistance and all this, again, it's not the cause, that's a symptom. The problem is, and when you look into these things, and doctors aren't taught this, and you don't have to, you can research this yourself, but when you really start to study into the lymphatic system, what it is and how it works, you'll discover that there's two main, we'll call it sewage systems of the body. Obviously the colon, one to be aware of, and that needs to be healthy as well, fixed, because most of us, our gut health and intestines, all that stuff is not in great shape anyway. But the thing I want to talk about here with the lymphatic system is that it's a drainage system too. It's a sewage system of the cells. So we have trillions of cells, and its job is to remove what doesn't need to be there anymore. And so with, say, diabetes, for instance, and that's why it's often related to obesity. Not always, but a part of it, particularly people who do have weight-related diabetes, that the fat gets stuck. There's too much fat in the cells. That doesn't mean necessarily that you are fat, although it is a common thing, but there's too much fat in the cells, and you need to get the fat out of the cells so that the sugar can go into the cells where it should be. And anyway, the whole process goes on with that. But that's why the sugar's floating around in the blood, because it can't get in there because there's too much fat. So that's because the lymphatic system's so blocked up, it can't get out. So when you actually give yourself some time to allow that process to take place for the lymphatic system to drain, So you can do that through doing something like a juice fast, and you might want to start off slow to begin with. You might only do a day, and then maybe go to 2 or 3 days, and then a bit longer. A lot of things happen, but I won't get into that right now. That's a whole video in itself. But what will happen is, though, as you start to allow your body to rest from solid foods and putting in the wrong foods, we put in so much of the wrong foods, all these things full of preservatives and all these sort of things. That's why the lymphatic system's blocked up, because we eat the wrong foods for our body. It allows the lymphatic system then to drain. And as it does that, it allows more of the fat to come out of the cells, and then the sugar is able to go into the cells to then be processed, and then people's diabetes improve, if not go away completely. Okay, that does happen. That does happen. It's not, you can research this and find this very interesting. So going back to the bipolar aspect with the saturated fats, I would say that there would be an aspect of that too, that you would probably need to look at getting into. I would recommend it for everybody anyway, no matter where you're at in life, whether you've got mental health issues or not. It's a good thing to do. There's a lot of stuff to clean out of our systems. But looking into juice fasting and cleansing out the system, detoxing the system, it's really something really worthwhile doing, and I think it's really important that we all do this for just general health, let alone mental health. So I think that that's an aspect that would probably still need to be looked at, not just removing the saturated fat from the diet, but possibly even giving your lymphatic system and just general system an opportunity to clear out other things that are in there. Okay. So the next one they talk about on this list is looking at the microbes. So the microbiome, and I've mentioned in other videos, so they to do with gut health. So they say here that they're looking at the microbes living in the gastrointestinal tracts of patients and comparison volunteers, and the researchers found low levels of a key bacteria type and less diversity of microbes in patients taking antipsychotic medications. So okay, these antipsychotic medications are also doing damage to the gut microbiome. Now you add in that with a really poor diet, and with eating, you're consuming things that have got antibiotics in it. Now that's also destroying your gut microbiomes. Then there's drinking a lot of fluids. Certain fluids do that too, and I've mentioned before like what chlorine does. So drinking chlorinated water, now drinking that, and that's also destroying your gut health. So, and the gut health is very important. And they didn't go into detail in that one thing I read there, but I mentioned it before. Just about the one key thing most people would have heard of, serotonin. That comes from your gut. 90% of serotonin comes from your gut. So if your gut health is all over the place, and it's such an important part of your whole system, it's going to be throwing things off all over the place. Okay, that's only serotonin, not to mention all the other things going on in there. So again, we've got to look at re-establishing that, getting that all healthy. And you can do that again through your diet. It's one aspect. You don't need to take the, things like 𝗘𝗺, which are like the probiotics. You can get that through food. And the reason I say that is because there are dairy-based ones, which I don't recommend personally. I mean, you eat fermented foods, things like sauerkraut and kimchi and miso. Eating a lot of beans, they're great. And you'll notice how much your gut health is out if you start eating things like different legumes and things like lentils and stuff, chickpeas. Well, chickpeas are a pretty harsh one even on a healthy gut, but in terms of flatulence. So that's what I'm getting at here, that when you start eating these things, all the different kidney beans and that, great for your health. But if you're not used to that, eating those sort of things, and you start eating a lot of them to begin with, expect a lot of wind, a lot of gas. And if you haven't cleaned out your system, it's probably going to be very smelly too. But the thing is, as you start to change your system and you clean out your system, these things they start to go away completely, or minimise quite a lot anyway, all the wind and stuff. And then with all the smell and that comes out of you, once you start cleaning out all your intestines and your colon, I can tell you from experience that you don't have any smell anymore. It's really quite remarkable. Even now, I don't have any BO. So it really surprised me when I just first discovered that. So going off topic a little bit here, but hopefully you're just understanding what I go on about the importance of eating a healthy diet. It just improves your life in so many ways. So going back to this list again, I think that was the two main things that they were talking about with the food, was the saturated fats and the microbiome aspect. But they do talk about, poor sleep. Obviously that's an important part, but I don't want to go into those things. I wanted to keep this video not too long, but just talking about the importance of eating healthily and looking at a plant-based diet. Getting away from the dairy and the meat if you can, as much as you can, and just see what happens. But really embrace looking at, it's no surprise people talk about eating healthily, like eating vegetables and fruits and, seeds and nuts, legumes and all those sort of things. They're a really important part of your diet, really, really important. And you can just look at health studies too, that things like cardiovascular disease, it's generally not a person who eats a plant-based diet problem. There's a lot of diseases related to people who eat, meat and dairy for starters. Obviously all the other fats too, like saturated fats, but if someone who's been eating a plant-based diet or a vegan diet for a long period of time, they don't generally have these problems. That says a lot to us about that. And just in terms of energy levels and all sorts of things. I talked to a lot of people about this. I had a chat the other day to a guy. I wasn't trying to convert him to anything, but I just dispelled a lot of myths about the foods. And I didn't know what he had in terms of illnesses, but I brought up a few things, started talking to him a bit about them, just matter-of-factly. I was actually at a cafe, I was just sitting there, and you know what was interesting, he told me what he had after a period of time talking to him, and then I was really surprised to hear this, that him just say, just based on all the things that I'd showed him evidence-based, and I guess he could relate to it himself personally, he said, that's it, no more meat. I'm not eating any more meat ever again. I thought, well, I don't know whether he's going to be able to stick by that, but it was he said, oh, you really inspired me to change my diet, to change my way. And although I said I wasn't trying to convert anybody, it was just a general topic, just a general talk. But I'm hoping to inspire others about doing this and take a real interest in food, take an interest in your own health. I remember before I started eating the way I do now, I used to think about the idea of eating just fruit and vegetables, just plant-based things, and with no meat or whatever. Just thought, how bland, And I don't deny that these things taste good, but you got to. There's different ways to look at this, but you got to sort of say, well, if my health is being affected in any way by these things, well, maybe I've got to weigh up what's more important. But you can have really tasty meals too. There's so many things on the internet now, recipes you can look up, simple ones too. In vegan food or plant-based food, raw vegan or whatever it is. Desserts and everything, really tasty. I make things for people all the time and they're really blown away, like, wow, this is amazing. And the great thing about it is you feel really good afterwards. You do feel uplifted. So anyway, I don't want to get too much on this because I could really talk about food and how awesome it is eating a vegan diet quite a while, but I just thought it was an interesting thing anyway, that what I read today, to share with you and just trying to convey to you the importance of food. Just really want to get that into people. So it's only one area, but I really recommend you look into that for your own health. Or at least try it. Just give it a try. So anyway, I'm going to leave this here. Hope you're having a wonderful day, and I look forward to making another video for you in the near future.